Today is the 13th of September, so it has been exactly 2 months officially since my top surgery. And I took basically the silicone tape off of one side here so that you can see the way that it's healing. And I personally am really happy with it. Like, it's really good in my opinion. The scarring and stuff is pretty thin or staying to itself, and the um like tissue and everything, I have full sensation. Like, even on the scars, I have like complete sensation. On the nipple, I can feel that. Like, it's like obviously the other side as well. But I'm saying I have like all the stuff that you don't always get. I have. I feel like a lot of um trans guys and stuff are like, oh, in top surgery, you're not gonna get all your sensation back, or oh, you're gonna lose sensation outright. Oh, I was gonna show me. So, silicone tape, highly recommend this stuff. It is to help with the healing of the scarring, um, make things, better, and feel more secure and stuff while you're starting to exercise and things more. I am to the point where I'm getting more exercise. I have been doing stretches and doing, you know, where I can push my arms up higher and stuff. Um, I do have a shirt to put on, but I just essentially wanted to go ahead and show, that the scarring is healing really well. I'm really happy with it. Um, on the 19th, I have my first consult for the hysterectomy, which I'm very excited about as well. I can get my head through here with the headphones. I should have just taken the headphones off. Anyway, the point is I am going to be getting the hysterectomy soon. Hopefully, at least the consult is soon, and that's exciting. But for 2 months post-op, I feel like this went really well. It's looking good, all that kind of stuff. I haven't really had a ton of pain. Um, it does get a little stiff, achy feeling when you push your muscles some, or you push the stretching some. Sometimes I'll go out, yeah, like, see right there, I can feel that. But like otherwise, it's like pretty good. Not much pain at all. Um, I don't know. I'm pretty happy with it. Eventually, here I'm gonna have to um like start moving everything around and everything in my real life, and that's gonna be interesting. But at least top surgery's done, and I mean, I can't imagine how the healing could have gone better. He's managed to save some of my chest hair, although it is the shorter chest hair. I had some chest hairs that were like this long and stuff, but those are all gone now. But it's worth it. My chest was just so deformed, so much more deformed than anyone realized. I talked before in a previous episode about the test results for just how deformed my chest was. um, I really, really, really am looking forward to. Supposedly, I can start doing whatever I want exercise wise, movement wise on September 18th. I've got some trans friends who suggested waiting like 6 months and stuff to do excuse me, to do everything. But quite frankly, I don't think I can tolerate that for, if no other reason, my hair and my mustache and my beard, which my mustache is completely blonde. I don't know if you can see it very good. For some reason, my beard is reddish and my mustache is like completely blonde. But man, the hairs are so long at this point that like my mustache hairs are always getting in my mouth, and um, My beard I is pretty scruffy looking and strange compared to how I normally keep it, and my hair is just getting so long. Um, can't wait to cut my hair. And in order to be able to cut my hair, I do need to be able to reach the top of my head without having to like curl myself under like this. So yeah, can't wait to cut my hair. As far as you know, healing goes and stuff, I am still putting the Eucerin lotion sometimes on my nipples, but I stopped putting it on my scars pretty much at all. Um, like bathing wise, I'm bathing by myself, doing all of that by myself. Like I've been doing some household chores. I've been like we just went to the beach this past weekend out on like the ocean, Pacific Ocean, and I walked along the beach and stuff like that. I did not go swimming, but I did go to up to my waist into the water. Um, but like I'm not having a ton of issues, but I did not wear my shirt off. I wore my shirt on because um I didn't want to take the risk of like sun exposure. Apparently, you have to really, really sunscreen up when you first start taking your shirt off outside. If it's close to when you had surgery at all, like I'm talking 6 months to a year. So I just didn't take my shirt off, even though I could have, um, because I was just with family. But um, it, you know, I didn't want to take the risk of I'm healing so freaking well in my own personal opinion. I don't want to add a bunch of like sun exposure to that and then I get like some sort of something going like absurdly wrong. Like that would be horrible. So, um I just decided against it. Um but I have been going shirtless around like the house quite a bit. I have not I have not had too much issue with misgendering at all. I thought I thought it would be done with, but unfortunately my name still is causing some issue, but my ever since I got top surgery, I haven't had a single misgendering. Even if I there's been a couple of times I went out without um the underwear that I have that help give a little bit of a bulge, and even without that, I still have not been misgendered at all. So that's nice, but if my old dead name is on a parchment of some kind, it still turns into a complicated thing. Um, apparently, recently I went in to get my booster shot and I tried to get my vaccination record card changed to have the correct name on it because when I first started getting the vaccines, they had to put my legal name at the time, and they were like, "Oh, I can't give you a new one because you've never gotten a booster shot here before. I've always done it through whatever state I was at." So that you know was like, okay, I guess I'll next time I'll do it through the state because last time I went, they offered to change it. So I just thought I was doing that, and we it was frustrating because it was very loud and we were both trying to hear each other, so I'm sure there was at least a little bit of struggle because of that. But like the guy knows I've 3 times now said, well, I just wanted my name changed, the name on the card is not the correct name. He knows this and he still calls me that. And I was like, do not call me that. Please do not call me that. That is not my name. And I said, you can call me this. This is a nickname. That's fine, but don't call me that. And he said something, and I don't know what it was because apparently I got triggered pretty bad and started talking about like trauma and stuff. but I wasn't talking. I was yelling at and about trauma and how, he needed to show like some compassion and be respectful of, if someone says that's not their name, don't call them that. I don't remember, but my girlfriend said that happened. So apparently I got triggered to the point where I was like mentally gone for like a minute there or something. It was only for like a minute though. And so she got upset because, she didn't want it to come across like I was being a Karen, yelling at a retail worker for no reason. And I was like, well, I wasn't trying to do that. I didn't mean to do that. I don't know. I don't know that I've ever done that before, but also it's been a really long time since I've been having to deal with name change issues because I tried so hard to, once my name was changed, just jump on a whole bunch of stuff and get my name changed on all this different stuff. So this is like one last thing that's sort of circulated around, and usually if you say, "Hey, that's not my name," people are respectful about it. And this guy just kept being oblivious to the fact that it was like not okay to ignore that I had literally told him 3 times at that point, by the time that he did that, that no, that's not my name. My name is on my driver's license. This is my name. That isn't my name. And again, it was very loud, so it was hard to hear. There was like one of those plastic things in front of us, so that you have to try to yell through the plastic to each other. But I got like actually triggered, like right there in front of a random stranger. So that wasn't the greatest. Um, Afterwards, just got my booster shot. Whatever. Like it wasn't like either of us were like mad at each other. It was more like we were both like surprised because I didn't remember what I said, and I don't think that he expected someone to have such a hurt reaction to him saying the name on the card instead of saying the name on like my driver's license or my paperwork or the filing or my medical information. Like everything all says the correct name except this one single thing. And he specifically, despite knowing that that wasn't my name, went out of his way to still say that. And I guess that hit me hard. Anyway, um usually when the name change thing always came up, people were really, for the majority part, really respectful about it. Like, it is what it is. Anyway, um, he didn't seem mad at me. I wasn't mad at him because he just started calling me my nickname, and I went back to going to get my booster shot, and that was that. Like, it wasn't like it was a giant altercation or super aggressive or something like that from either direction. I don't necessarily think it was even that he was like transphobic or anything like that. I think it was very hard to hear, and that he was either new or just didn't really know what he was doing, because he seemed really confused the entire time. Like he was confused why we were there. Like we were like, okay, we're here for our shot, and he's like, I'm sorry, what are you here for? Like he seemed really like he wasn't paying much of attention. So I think he just was oblivious, like actually. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he actually was transphobic and he was trying to get me riled up or something. I don't know. I doubt it though. I really think that he was just really oblivious, and that I got like actually triggered. Which usually when I like quote unquote space out or whatever and I disappear because I'm somewhere else mentally, usually it's in a private space, It's very unnerving to me that that happened in a public space, even if it was for like literally a minute or less. It probably was less than a minute. It still bothers me because I don't like the feeling of feeling like weak or I don't know. I view facing PTSD, and I do have very intense PTSD. CPTSD is a complicated thing to call it because um, CPTSD is a coined term. It's not a diagnostic term for the actual official DSM-5. But technically, I definitely have CPTSD. I don't. I like to view myself as a survivor. I like to view myself as someone who's strong, who can endure things and get to the other side of it intact, somewhat, and who endures PTSD with some measure of self composure and responsibility. Not always. Sometimes I just get flat out triggered and it sucks. Um, but I don't know. It could also be, I've been going through a lot of things in real life. A lot of personal things that have been very difficult for me, and my life has been turned super upside down. So I'm not exactly in the most emotionally content state in the first place. So I'm sure that didn't help. I haven't been sleeping a lot, so I'm sure that didn't help either. But I just you usually it doesn't happen in public, and I can keep something of a more measured response even if it did happen in public. Because I usually keep a more measured response. Period. I have flashbacks and PTSD issues a multitude of times in a day, often a multitude of times in an hour. Um, so, um, I've unfortunately had the experience of it for a long time and having to learn to cope, learn to deal with it, learn to continue forward in my life from a place of strength instead of, you know, treating myself like I have a handicap. And um it's frustrating that it's just sometimes gonna come across in a rude way or an uncomfortable way, no matter how hard I try. And that's frustrating. But I don't think he was trying to be transphobic. I really don't. Um, I didn't mean to, I don't know, come across him in an embarrassing way. Um, I haven't been talking about some of the things in my life because, as upsetting as they are and as of very life changing as they are, I don't like making people look bad. Because I don't appreciate when people make me look bad. And unfortunately, a lot of people at this point really don't think highly of me because they've been told a lot of things about me um, that either just outright aren't true or else are exaggerated. But on top of that, um, I also I recently got pushed to a point where I lost my temper, and I was supposed to be on bed rest. I was supposed to be recovering from surgery, and I was supposed to be healing because I'm in pain and I'm tired and I'm trying to heal. and instead I had to deal with some very extreme things, and I wasn't supposed to have to. And it sort of went from I didn't know anything about anything that was building up to all of a sudden here it is plopped in your lap. It's happening right this second. Do something about it. And by then it was too late, but I didn't realize just how far things had gone because I had been on bed rest and nobody had been telling me anything that was going on. And as much as I tried so hard before my surgery to do everything in my power to try to make sure that nothing like this happened while I was on bed rest, it still happened. And there was no way I could have prevented it as far as I can see. I tried so hard and I did the quote unquote right things and it didn't work. It wasn't enough. And that means that me getting surgery at all made all of this happen. And I apologize for losing my temper, but the situation was very not okay. And I lose my temper maybe like 3 times in a year. I don't lose my temper very often. It's probably less than that, honestly, the majority of the time. Um, but I did. I lost my temper. And um, because someone was already saying bad things about me, and because I lost my temper, me at my worst is now what people think I am. Me at my worst is now somehow how I am all the time, which is absolutely not true, but that's what's been decided. So I have lost a lot of friends, and for a little bit, I even lost some family members because the whole situation was not good. Um, there's a lot more to it than that, like a lot. But for my part, I know I tried my hardest, but it wasn't enough. It just wasn't enough. And I have lived my life for the last decade pretty much in a constant state of being a caretaker, and I am trying to come to a point where I am being a caretaker of myself. And the more that I attempt to do that, the more that it is a problem because I can't have the life that was being led before and care about myself. And I'm trying to come to terms with that. I'm trying to accept that, and um it's difficult. It's difficult because, you know, part of my transition definitely stemmed from this thing my old childhood and teenage years, especially my teenage years and my early 20s, where I was just so very, very distraught and tormented. And part of it was from abuse and stuff that I had grown up with. Part of it was from isolation and never really having like real friends and feeling stable, because, you know, I was always in a different school or being the new kid. Even when I was trying to make friends, I just never felt a part of any communities or things or stuff, no matter how hard I tried. There was a ton of pressure and expectation on me to be like perfect in public, and then in private, I was just like a devolved mess. And I was dealing with so many hard hitting things while being chronically depressed, like super depressed. Um, not mentally healthy at all. Like I made a ridiculous amount of attempts at my own life when I was younger. Um, and part of it, is all of this other stuff, and then part of it is I couldn't understand why I hadn't been born a boy, and it just did not make any sense to me. I didn't know what was so wrong with me, and I didn't understand that I was deformed. I didn't understand that I had medically been born with characteristics of both sexes. I didn't know that. So I just knew I was a freak. And it wasn't just that other people ostracized me, although that absolutely is true. It was also that I ostracized myself. And when I started going into relationships and stuff, I was really codependent, and people walked all over me and treated me like crap. I've been abused in multiple relationships. Like, I went from one not healthy relationship to another not healthy relationship, kind of a thing. Because I was desperate to feel like I was lovable, and desperate to feel like I could fit, and desperate to be someone's hero instead of be like a monster, desperate to be a good person. Because I had been accused so much of not being a good person. I was desperate to be able to exist and it be okay. And I got treated so much in my life that it was a crime that I exist, that I squished and squashed myself down as hard as I could, trying to accommodate everyone else. And that if I could just be as convenient as possible and stop being inconvenient to everyone, then maybe they would forgive me for existing. And that's not true. If someone's not already convinced, you're not going to convince them. And a lot of people are really caught up with their own stuff, and they really don't have the capacity for trying to be understanding of you. And I thought if I helped people enough, that they would eventually appreciate me enough that they would forgive me for being alive. And maybe even someday someone could love me. And I'm trying to get to the point where I can accept that it shouldn't be surprising to me that every relationship I've been in, I've been abandoned. Because I always abandon myself in every relationship I'm in. And it shouldn't be surprising to me it shouldn't be surprising to me that people continue to treat me like it's terrible that I exist, or that I'm a bad person, no matter how hard I'm trying to be a good person, and no matter how hard I'm trying to do the right thing. When I make mistakes, it's from a place of good intentions, even when I mess up, but I never get the benefit of the doubt. And the problem is I still am living with a lot of the same habits and desperations that I had when I was growing up. And I don't know how to necessarily change that, because it's like very ingrained in me. It's like compulsion. It's not like I think to myself, oh hey, let's think this through before I do it, when it comes to like interpersonal relationship in that regard. It's still all very much from a place of desperation. But I have to have at least a little hope, besides that I am in therapy, I have to have at least a little hope that that I can get to a, we'll just say, better place. Because when I first started, like, transitioning, I was pretty messed up. And, like, when the very first doctor, like, almost a decade ago, it was a long time ago, told me that, you know, they thought I was intersex. I couldn't hear that. I couldn't accept that. And I, like, completely shut that down. And even when I finally was like, okay, well, you don't really understand what was being said to you, but you can understand that you're not female. So, fine, I'm non-gender. I'm an I'm a I'm just here. I'm something, but I don't know what it is. And that's that. And I lived like that for years, and I was miserable. I was just as not okay doing that as I had been being a lesbian. Like, I just was not okay. And even when I finally came to the point of, I really, really can't take this anymore, I have to accept that I'm male, or else, what am I doing? You know, even when I finally got to a point of just like, I'm male, it took me freaking out over a freaking piece of paper with checkboxes on it to get to that point. Like, I feel like I don't come to self-acceptance easily. Like, I am so tolerant of deviant behavior in other people. I I will let people do whatever for years and years, and then the one time I make a mistake, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I will treat myself like absolute crap and just completely not even have a sense of like self-worth or identity, except that I know morally I'm a good person. And whatever they want is what I want. Hey, whatever you want to eat, whatever you want to do, whatever you want, like, it's not even just, oh, you want our future to look like this, or oh, this is the kind of house you want. I'm accommodating in every single little tiny aspect of everything for other people. I get hyper focused on other people around me when I care about them, and I'm just obsessed with their mannerisms, their behaviors, whatever they want, everything that they desire. And when it comes to me, I'm just like so closed off or whatever that it is difficult. It is very difficult. I know for at least a portion of my life, I started to feel like maybe it wasn't true, all the things that I had believed my whole life, and maybe I really was lovable. And unfortunately, that got ripped away from me. And I've spent the last several years trying to get that back, and it just has not worked. And I didn't ask the people involved. I didn't ask whether they wanted to go back to that. I just was so desperate for it that I assumed that if I wanted it this much, surely they did too. I am currently struggling a lot with the fact that I definitely am still, even this very second, desperate for that external love, for that to come at me, to feel like I'm lovable. That no matter how much I might tell myself, I'm not the things that I have been called or told that I was growing up, that I don't feel that that is true. Like, in reality, I didn't commit a crime by coming into existence. In reality, I'm not a monster. I'm not demon possessed. I'm not some sinful whatever. I'm not unlovable. Like, logically, there's realistic things that you can say toward that, but emotionally, I still very much feel that way. And I very much still feel like everyone around me's love is very conditional, and that if I don't act or do things in certain ways, then they don't care. And unfortunately, for some people, that's definitely been proven true. They definitely don't care, and that's been hard to deal with because I genuinely had thought I had done enough and that I had cared enough that I would be cared about, and I'm not by some people. But there's other people who tell me they love me, and I only partial believe them. Like, I believe you can love someone without being in love with them, or that you can love someone to certain degrees, but it's not really like it's all the way. So when people say they love me, I don't think they're lying. I just think, well, you only love me to this degree, but you don't actually love me to this, which is what I wish you were saying. And I don't think it's necessarily everyone else's fault because I don't love me. And there are some things about myself that I take pride in, but for the majority of the part, I don't know how to do that or whatever. So, as much as there's been a lot of turmoil in my life from like abuse and from like gender dysphoria and from like depression and insanity and stuff, there's also this really big cloud, and I've talked about it before, so it's not like it's a new thing. It's not like, oh, I've got this epiphany, I feel unlovable. Like, I've it's not new. It's not news. It's always been there, but I'm trying so hard to get to a point of loving myself, and I don't know how to do it. I've been trying to get to that point where I could care about myself at all, like in a real or deep way, for such a long time, and not gotten there, that I'm getting to the point where I don't even know if it's possible. And I am in therapy, and things did over time improve with the transition. But I also feel like there were some big giant breakthroughs with the transition that I just have not had in, like, my quote unquote love life or whatever. Like, when I started taking testosterone, for instance, and overnight I went from having been chronically depressed my entire life since I was a toddler every single day to, where did the depression go? Um, that there's no magical something for that that I am aware of. That with relating to oneself. You know, with transition, there's this big joy, you know, gender euphoria or whatever, with certain aspects of transitions actually going successfully, or hey, this surgery is going to happen, or you know, I'm not getting misgendered because of this change. And you know, even for someone intersex like me, um that trans experience is definitely still there. And for me, it even runs a little deeper. Like, part of my deformity is no longer attached to me anymore. And I have hope that more deformity is going to be removed from me. And there is something really huge about that for me, because I have felt so different and like I didn't know what was wrong with me my whole life, that I've said it multiple times, I'll say it again. Having this scar here is so much better than having that deformed chest attached to my body. Like, the scar is so much less traumatizing. Like, it is astronomically, I don't even know how many times, like 3,000 times better than what it was before. Like, I don't even know how to express how much better it is than going around feeling like half of you is trying to be you and half of you is trying to keep you from being you. Like, maybe it would have been different if I had known I was intersex from the very beginning, but that wasn't an option. I was born in the 80s. The word intersex wasn't even a thing then. You know, there's so much ignorance about stuff that still is perpetuated to this day, but at least there is knowledge to be had. And it just wasn't an option. So maybe if I hadn't spent the whole of my life saying what is wrong with me, and instead had the option of saying, well, I know this is what's wrong with me, I'm upset about it, but at least I have the answer, maybe it would have impacted something. But I did not have that option. um I can only do my best as an adult to live with myself and live in a way where I can be comfortable with myself. And there is absolutely this massive part of that that has to do with physically transitioning and no longer feeling like I am this deformed intersex baby that got thrust into the world, that has always had one foot in having to be female and one foot in having to be like myself in like secret and lead two separate lives or something. You know, until I came to the point where I was like, I can't keep doing that. But it's like, as much as definitely a huge part of why I have felt unlovable was because the more I acted like myself, the more I acted like a guy, and the more everybody had an issue with it. There's also the more I kept going through life, the more my hope that I was gonna meet someone who really just like felt this spark with me and massively was just like super loved me, and I was just like awesome to them. And that the more people that have not felt that way, the more it's just reinforced everything I was raised to believe about myself, that I am nothing and that I mean nothing. And I somehow have to develop this structure inside of myself for having meaning, and I've never been able to accomplish that. I have a pretty solid structure for what my morals are. I have a pretty solid structure for knowing, you know, that I value things like responsibility and consistency and, faithfulness and honesty. I value those things a lot. Um, so my character building, as far as pursuing being a good person, I'm always aspiring to that, and that is a very well formed system for the majority part in me. And that doesn't mean I never make mistakes or anything like that. I absolutely make mistakes. Like I said earlier in this video, I made a mistake and had a PTSD moment in public. Like I lost my temper. I talked about that. Like, I make mistakes for sure. But I'm always putting in the effort. And so I can at least forgive myself when I make a mistake, because I know without like a shadow of a doubt what my intentions were. But just because I know what my intentions were doesn't make me feel like better about myself. It makes me feel secure that yes, I was being as consistent as I could, when I made such and such mistake, whatever the mistake is. It can be frustrating for me when other people don't see that, but it's not, I don't think it's even necessarily that they don't see that, although sometimes I do. It's that they don't see my worth. And I can't blame them for that, because I don't see my worth. And again, I've done important things in my life. I've saved lives. I've volunteered. I've helped make the world a better place, quote unquote, in a lot of ways. And my life still feels very hollow to me, because I don't know how to do things for myself. I'm really good at doing things for other people. I'm really good at doing things that benefit other people or make their lives stronger or better or go well. Like, just getting to the point where I could transition, part of that was reconciling with myself that there were people who were going to have a problem with it, and there were people that it wasn't going to make them feel good, and that I still needed to do it because I would never be able to continue to live with myself. But I still felt guilty for causing a problem for people. I still do. I I know it's frustrating for people or upsetting for people, and that bothers me. And it shouldn't, because it's such a necessary thing. Like, should a person who has skin cancer growth on their skin feel guilty because they cut that off, but now because they cut that off, they have a scar or something on like their cheek, and it might be annoying to someone or a change for someone or something like that. Should they feel guilty? No. I medically, I was in such an unhealthy place, even if you exclude all the mental health issues that come with gender dysphoria. My physical well-being was so not okay because of being born intersex, my hormones were out of whack. They were really not good. And it actually technically isn't because of being born intersex as much as being cut when I was little. And that affects your hormones as you're growing up. That's part of why it's discouraged now, is because there are lifelong hormone issues for the poor kid involved. But they didn't know that when I was little. The standard procedure was cut away. So, I had all these hormone problems, and my health was negatively, adversely affected, and it was very necessary for me to transition, like, for my health. So I shouldn't feel guilty. I shouldn't feel upset that there are people who are upset by it, because in reality, it's so petty and nonsensical for them to be upset. It doesn't make any sense for them to be upset. So in reality, if I do something that is necessary for me and people are put off by it or offended or inconvenienced, I shouldn't feel bad about it if I needed it. But I do. I feel a sense of responsibility. And logically, I can understand why that's wrong, that I shouldn't, and it doesn't change how I feel. If I had never gotten surgery, my life would not look like how it does right now. But at the same time, me getting a surgery should not have caused everything that resulted. Me getting surgery should not have been such a massive burden when it was something I desperately needed. And it was the first thing I had done that was specifically only for me in so long. That was like a really big thing. Like, even when I started taking testosterone, it wasn't just only for me. There had been people who had been supporting me that I, you know, felt would be really excited and proud of me. I knew my physical health had to get better because I was a caretaker. And there were people depending on me. And I couldn't just continue to have health problems getting worse and worse and worse. I had to be strong and capable so I could continue to be a caretaker. Like, there were logical reasons that it affected other people in a good way too, and it as much as it was for me, it was also beneficial to the majority of people involved. And I just happened to be one of the people. Could I have technically carried on with my chest the way it had been? Yes. It's not like it's not like I knew my chest was as deformed as it was. I didn't know about just how bad it was. But B, most of my gender dysphoria has to do with everything below the belt and my chest, and I had this really weird relationship because of all the years that I'd been a lesbian. So there was less, it was more like I didn't want it there, but was I gonna necessarily like attempt to kill myself over my chest? Not necessarily. Like, let's be honest. But it doesn't change that the entire rest of my life going forward would still be a much, much significantly higher quality of life without my chest being the way that it was. Me getting the surgery increases my overall well-being significantly. And again, that was true and worth making the decision for even before I got the test results back for how deformed my chest actually really was, which they didn't know until after I had had the surgery. Like, until they cut into me and looked at things and checked things out and everything, they didn't know just how significant it was. So I already felt that way before. And to me, that's like not a place I get to very easily or often in my life where it's like this wouldn't necessarily affect anyone else in a positive way. It's only going to affect me in a positive way. And it's going to be inconvenient for everybody else, but it's still worth doing because it matters so much to me. It is very, very, very hard for me to come to a point where I can say, yeah, I'm going to do this even though nobody else wants it. And I realize that's not good. I realize it shouldn't be that way. I realize that if I want something, I should be able to go for it and I should be able to pursue it and think about myself and that be enough. And I don't know how to get to that. And it's less than a month till my birthday. And I'll be 38 years old. And I don't know how to get to that. But I need to get to that. Because I am going to continually have relationships where I teach people that I'm nothing. Because I feel like nothing. And then they treat me like I'm nothing. Like, that's just not going to stop. If I can't get to some sort of way of treating myself better so that other people treat me better. I have to have value besides my constant attempts, not always successful attempts, but attempts at being a good person. I have to have more value than that because that's obviously definitely not enough. I give other people more value than that. I put them on freaking pedestals. And the thing about teaching people how highly you think of them is if they don't think highly of you too, you just end up dirt. I feel like every relationship I've ever been in, I was a stepping stone. And they stepped on me, and I helped them get to somewhere they wanted to go, and then they kept on walking. And and when they kept on walking, they didn't they didn't even look back. Like I'm just nothing. Like outright abandonment. And the common denominator in all my relationships is me. And what's really gut wrenching is that includes my relationship with myself. And the only thing that still is giving me hope that I can somehow get to some better relationship with myself is that I did eventually get to some point where transitioning physically and dealing with my gender dysphoria and stuff became about me. And I was finally to a point where doing something for myself was worth it just to improve my own quality of life. And if I can somehow get to that with my relationship with myself, that having a good way of treating myself would improve my quality of life going forward, if I can somehow get to that, even if I don't see a path forward, if I can somehow be my own stepping stone instead of everyone else's. But I don't want to just step on myself and then leave myself again. I would like to somehow like go through life walking hand in hand with myself. I don't. I don't know how to get there. It's so easy for me to promise people things and then keep my promises to them. And it's so difficult for me to tell people, no, that's not okay. And then when they completely ignore that or disrespect that, to be okay with myself saying again, no, that's not okay. Don't don't treat me like that. I feel so guilty and like I'm a bad person. So I just let people walk all over me. And I can promise myself, oh, next time it'll be different, or oh, next time I'll do things differently, but I don't keep promises to myself like that. Like when I promise I'm gonna be be somewhere, do something, I try to the utmost of my ability to do it if it's for someone else. And when it's for me, it's like so low on the totem pole of priorities that it's very forgettable. I've said it before, I've always felt like I was the least important person in my own life. And I don't know how to change that. Anyway, lots of weighty things on my mind. um, um, anyway, the biggest point of this video was supposed to be, hey, 2 months since the surgery, things are going well, I'm healing. Physically, things are going well. um, at least I have that. At least there's that. Physically, things are going well. I definitely hold on to that.